Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 88, Imperial Tutor. The refreshing breeze came blowing gently, and the chilly night made one cold with fear. Xiao Qiye's earlier intent to kill was largely dispelled by this address of Erlang. He stayed silent for a long while, bathed in this pleasant coolness as he calmed himself. Shenzhequan looked back again at Qiang. Without looking the least bit flustered, he said, "Transporting this many silver is not something that can be achieved in a short time. No matter how thorough he is, he can't deceive the entire world. Gather some men tonight to head out of the city. First, head to Qin province and make detailed inquiries along the way. Record down all the business transactions of the major goods in the past 2 years from Juexi to the northeast, then send someone to give me a detailed account." Qiang had been heavy-hearted with worries after receiving the news. But when he saw how unperturbed Shenzhequan was, he could not help but feel a little relieved and composed himself, too. Chen Yang. With his robe hanging off his shoulders, Xiao Qiye motioned, "Take them to the Interpreters Institute in Chu capital first. Get a batch of medium-grade horses and affix their tags to the official writ of arrest for the notorious bandit leader. Say that the bandit is on the run in Juexi. It's not convenient for the imperial army to head out of the city to pursue and apprehend him, thus this task is entrusted to the Jinyi Wei. I'll personally make a trip to the Ministry of War and the Ministry of Justice tomorrow morning to submit a report." The city gates were already closed, so they could not leave the city arbitrarily. The imperial bodyguards were also involved in the important tasks of conducting raids and arrests of criminals, and they usually had to report to the Ministry of Justice and Chief Surveillance Bureau whenever they had to leave the city for field work, then waited for the official approval in reply. By doing this, Xiao Qiye was giving Qiang a reason to take the men out of the capital and to excuse him from being subsequently called to account by the Ministry of Justice. Qiang immediately left upon getting his order. Chen Yang threw on his robe and led the way, and both men left the residence ahead of the others. Xiao Qiye led the flimsily dressed Shenzhequan back by the hand. When he stepped through the door into the room and saw that Shenzhequan was still deep in thought, he said, "What happened to teacher is no doubt connected to Shueziao's woe. But since he's willing to transfer him away, that means teacher is still of use to him. He won't act rashly and kill teacher. There are too many secrets hidden in the Shue's residence. I have to think of a reason to get a special search and arrest warrant from His Majesty. To deploy the Imperial Army, it has to be a major case where the evidence is irrefutable. So, we still have to rely on the Jinyi Wei for the probe today." Shenzhequan did not sit back in his original seat. He knew that resting would prove to be hard tonight, seeing as it was already late, so he poured himself a cup of strong tea. However, he only took a sip and gave the rest to Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye drank it all and said, "Shueziao's woe is cautious in everything he does. He would not even accept the ice respect that those officials outside the city offered him upon their return to the capital. In all these time during his tenure as the chief supervising secretary, the imperial censors from the Chief Surveillance Bureau all regarded him as the most uncorrupted official. He rarely gets impeached. So, I'm afraid it'll be hard for even the Jinyi Wei to find a reason to investigate him. Investigating him openly with great fanfare will inadvertently alert the enemy." Shenzhequan fiddled with the teacup and deliberated it over the bitter aftertaste of the tea. "He's out in the open, while we are hidden in the dark. As long as we keep the Pan Shueziaoyi concealed, we are still the one on the offensive side. Matters outside the palace is not an issue, but we have to be even more careful when it comes to affairs within the palace. His intent to kill His Majesty has already been ignited, and he has the help of Mu Ryu and Feng Quan. He knows every one of His Majesty's moves and actions like the back of his hand. Under the circumstances, we have no option but to guard against him." Xiao Qiye thought for a moment, then said, "Didn't Feng Quan just become the seal-holding director of the Directorate of Ceremonial? Given his service record, he will surely incur censure from both inner and outer courts. Fu Man, whose rank is beneath him, is itching for a fight, while Hai Lianji detests eunuchs. Feng Quan's power and authority now that he has assumed the post of the seal-holding director cannot be compared to Pan Rugui's during the latter's time in power. Get him trapped both on the inside and outside where he is unable to fend for himself, and he won't have the spare capacity to deal with anything else for Xue Xiaozuo. It's also of pivotal importance to secure His Majesty's position. Shen Zequan said. No word regarding the imperial heir must get out. Ever since Li Jianheng's ascension, he had been castigated much by the imperial censors. What's more, he had met with mishaps and dangers one after another. He did not have an outstanding track record of political achievements, and his reputation among the commoners was not comparable to that of the former emperor. If the matter of the imperial heir were to leak, it would no doubt unsettle public sentiment. No matter which way one were to look at it, it would not be conducive to maintaining stability. Regardless of whether the one in Xue Xiaozuo's hands is a real dragon or a fake. Xiao Qiye pressed against his thumb ring and stared at the glazed lamp. The emperor of Great Zhou can only be Li Jianheng. Even if a crown prince is to be designated in the future, it can only be Li Jianheng's son. The Xiao clan was now a notch above the Hua clan, and they had managed to preserve their power. Xiao Qiye, secured in his position, was steadily making his moves while over in Liege, Xiao Jiming was solid in his defenses, too. They pitted against the noble clans in Zongbo and Qidong on the sly. The fight was not that intense because there were the outspoken ministers Hai Lianji and his people to act as an intermediary and mediate between them, managing with some difficulty to prevent the infighting between the two tigers from deteriorating further. But then, Hai Lianji's greatest protection was Li Jianheng. Li Jianheng was willing to trust him and respect him, he knew of his unyielding loyalty. That's why he had not immediately turned to the Empress Dowager for support in this tug of war. Furthermore, Li Jianheng was willing to lay out all the major and minor affairs of the imperial court on the table to discuss with Hai Lianji. This was the fundamental reason why Hai Lianji could secure his position in the Grand Secretariat as the Grand Secretary after the transition into the new reign. The person named Li Jianheng was not important, but after he ascended to the throne, this Li Jianheng became crucial. He was in the center of all the covert and overt attacks. And he was the cage that the three sides jointly used to restrain the other. He was also the dagger that the three sides jointly used to attack the other. Now that Xue Xiaozuo had already surfaced, Shen Zequan could not help but wonder, even as he looked for a breakthrough, if there was another person behind Xue Xiaozuo. ******. There was a drizzle a few days later, when Xue Xiaozuo had the day off. He was wearing a sky-blue fine-woven silk robe as he paid a formal call on Qi Huilian at the small building he was kept in. Qi Huilian took large bites of his meal and did not even cast a glance at him. Xue Xiaozuo did not sit at the table, and the bow he made was a protocol observed by disciples. He saw Ji Gang sitting before the window polishing a stone, and so he said to those in attendance, "Elder Ji has yet to recover from his injuries and should avoid spicy food. Go and get the chef from Duan province to cook up the dishes again. No need for the trouble." Ji Gang blew away the dust and said in a quiet voice, "I'm not eating." Xue Xiaozuo did not say a word, and the attendant withdrew to give the chef his instructions. The Xue clan was a prominent clan of Jin City, and they were not used to the local tastes of Zongbo. This chef from Duan province was someone he had hired specifically for Ji Gang. The drizzle outside the building came pitter-pattering amongst the apricot blooms in spring, and the pink and white in the courtyard were all beaten to mud by the rain. Having eaten and drunk to his fill, Qi Huilian wiped his mouth and rose to look at the bleak scene in the courtyard. He said, "No need to waste that effort. Ji Gang is extremely obstinate. If he says he's not eating, then it means exactly that. Just get them to prepare some steamed buns and pickled vegetables for him to allay his hunger." Xue Xiaozuo smiled, "I can't be so irreverent with both elders in my house as guests." "Then open the doors." Ji Gang carved a nose and eyes for the stone. "We can go back ourselves." Without a change in his expression, Shueziaozuo said, "There's a chill in the spring air lately." Seeing as Vice Commander Shen still has nowhere to settle down, how would he be able to provide proper accommodation for both elders? Drop the pretense. Just say that you're keeping us in captivity. Qi Huilian walked a few steps, and the iron chain on his ankles clanked along with his movements. He said, "I've been taken prisoner my entire life, and I'm almost reaching my end. I'm old and he's disabled. What are you trying to do by holding the two of us old, weak, sick, and disabled men captive in your hands?" Shueziaozuo personally bent over to pick up the chopsticks Qi Huilian had pushed aside to the ground. Wiping it with a handkerchief, he said, "Mr. is a brilliant man of great stature in the past. You originally would have enjoyed the posthumous honor and glory of being enshrined and worshipped in the imperial ancestral temple after death. A pity you threw in your lot with the wrong person, and ended up feigning insanity in the temple of penitence for 20 years. Today, I would like to ask of Mr. to be the imperial tutor once again. For one, it can make up for Mr.'s regret for not being able to witness the crown prince's enthronement ceremony back then. For two, it can redress the injustice and grievance Mr. has suffered and allow Mr. to begin anew in the imperial court. You can return before the eyes of the masses in a dignified and above-board manner. Aren't these two reasons sufficient enough? I am a person who respects and admires Mr. a lot. Be the imperial tutor again." Qi Huilian took a step backward, dragging the iron chain along with him. A laugh escaped his throat. "You want me to be the imperial tutor again? Such arrogance! The world is now at peace, and the current emperor is rightfully legitimate. He has that high Renchi to watch over him and assist him, so why do you still need this Qi Huilian? I'm crazy and silly. There's no way I can assume an important post." Shueziaozuo set down the chopsticks and said, "Mr. ended in such a situation only because Mr. was slandered. During the reign of Emperor Yanji, the Empress Dowager took control over the state affairs, which turned the law and discipline of Great Zhou's imperial court upside down and caused corrupt officials to run amok. It was the same during the reign of Emperor Xiand. The Hua family and the Pan faction colluded with one another and stirred up troubles in Chu capital, the 8 cities, the entire Great Zhou, bringing untold suffering to the common folk of the various lands. Then, the troops of Zongbo suffered a defeat, and it was a scene of desolation and despair in the 6 prefectures as victims and refugees swarmed all over, and bodies of the starved littered the roads. Mr. spent an idle 20 years in the Temple of Penitence, yet you have lost your drive and heroic spirit now that you have come out. Have you even lost the will to compete and emerge victorious against Liege?" Qi Huilian turned around and held onto the window to look at the rain pelting the apricot blossoms. After a moment of silence, he said, "It's true that I wanted to compete with Liege 25 years ago to determine who was the better one. We both took the same imperial examinations. He was so unremarkable, while I ranked first in the imperial civil examinations at the provincial, metropolitan, and palace level. I was complacent in my youth and did not know how to navigate the official circles. I ended up framed and demoted out of the capital. Too ashamed to face my elders in Yu province, I fell depressed for several years. Later on, Liege was promoted and he rose in ranks. Yet, the crown prince did not take him as his teacher but welcomed me back to Chu capital from Yu province. And so, I became the grand tutor of the Eastern Palace. At the same time, I assumed the post of the Minister of Personnel. Liege lost to the name Qi Huilian his entire life. But he is a gentleman. When the crown prince slit his own throat, he was condemned by all. Only Liege believed that there was still hope in him, that he was not beyond redemption. Just for this alone, I cannot be compared to him. Between us, there is no superiority or inferiority, only mutual appreciation. But alas, heaven is blind. Even though we share the same path, we still cannot work together. I've been trapped for 25 years. You're right. At present, I no longer have the will nor desire to compete with him. Xue Xiaozuo fell silent too, leaving only the sound of rain and of Jigang carving and polishing in the room. The rain intensified, and the apricot blossoms fell in an even more chaotic manner to form a blanket of fragmented pink amongst the muddy water. In this lifetime, I've only mentored 2 people, and both times, I imparted all the knowledge I have learned over the course of my life to them. I thought too highly of my talents and was unwilling to make do, and it was precisely because of this conceitedness that I caused such great harm to my first student. Qi Huilian gazed at that dirty water with pieces of petals, as if he was looking at the sorry state he had been for half of his life. He said, "This Qi Huilian is not an immortal after all. 2 disciples are enough. As for the others, I'm not up to teaching them." Jigang burst out coughing violently. He covered his mouth with a handkerchief and grumbled, "Close the windows." Qi Huilian shut all those scenes outside and looked back at Xue Xiaozuo. He said, "That's all I have to say. Don't pester me. Leave. Don't stay and get in the way." Xue Xiaozuo did not move. His appearance did not resemble Xue Xiaoyi, he did not even look to be a noble clan's descendant. He lacked the same kind of haughtiness Pan Li and Fei Shi had. His identity as a son born of a concubine had given him a lot of grief the past decades, and it subsequently polished him into a person of unobtrusive but sophisticated elegance. I admire Mr.'s talents and learning, and I look up even more to Mr.'s philosophy on the world. I have come thrice to this small building to beseech Mr. to come out of obscurity to return to officialdom, all because I understand Mr.'s aspirations. Mr. Liege is indeed a lofty gentleman, but a gentleman has never been able to coexist for long with a man with petty interests. The current emperor is not given to accepting guidance from the classics, and he doesn't have the benevolence to treat worthy men and men of virtue with due respect. He is merely a straw everyone grasps onto, as great Joe teeters on the brink of collapse. There is no way he can be a wise and virtuous ruler. How much strength and energy does Liege still have left in him? To entrust the safety of the state entirely on him alone is a complete reversal of hierarchy and an overlook of the more important issues at hand. Qi Huilian said, "To begin with, it's the minister's duty to assist the sovereign in governing the state. Liege is doing his best to save the situation from declining and to mediate between the various parties. He's a loyal subject. Don't tell me you still want him to be a traitor, one who replaces the Li clan and brings about a regime change. The conflict between those from the noble clans and those of humble backgrounds has been going on for hundreds of years. To get rid of this age-old ill of the society, one must have the determination to commit oneself irrevocably and fight to the very end." Xue Xiaozuo rose to his feet and said, "If Li Jianheng can't do it, there are still others. Great Zhou is the empire of the Li clan. As long as the Li bloodline still exists, then it's only reasonable to have a change in person in order to tide over this crisis." Qi Huilian's point of view was at odds with him. So, he merely treated him as a noble clan descendant abusing his power for personal gains and refused to engage further in a conversation with him. Xue Xiaozuo stood in silence for a moment before he said, "Mr. and I are also both kindred spirits on the same path. It's a pity that Mr. doesn't believe me. But I still have to tell you that Shenzequan is a vestige of evil who drags out his feeble existence nursing his hatred. There is nothing else in his heart, he merely exists for revenge. He acts with viciousness, and he is narrow-minded. He is poles apart from the crown prince. Mr. teaches him with the heart and mind of tutoring a sovereign, and this is no different from helping a villain commit evil. Even if he makes great achievements in the future, he still won't be a good master." Jigang slammed down his carving knife without warning and glared furiously at Xue Xiaozuo. He said, "How much do you understand Chuan air? You people keep calling him a vestige of evil, but the way I see it, all of you are the insatiably greedy vestiges of evil. Shut your trap and leave." Xue Xiaozuo bowed and said, "I'll be waiting, should Mr. have a change of heart." He exited and left after letting down the curtain.
Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Xue Xiaoyi was wandering outside the courtyard when he saw Xue Xiaozuo walking back from afar. He cradled the umbrella close and made his way to the veranda, only to bump into the students who had been dismissed from school. These students, who came from the brothel, paid their respects to him. Xue Xiaoyi tossed the umbrella to the maidservant behind him and looked at them one at a time. The maidservant said, "Is this the path for you people to walk on? How impertinent of you all to get in the way of the eldest master." The students hung their heads down and retreated. A girl of 17 or 18 stood behind them. Xiu Xiaoyi noted that she was extraordinarily good-looking, so he tugged her sleeve frivolously and said, "Are you one of the chicks yanking bought back? What's your name?" This girl cast a glance at Xue Xiaoyi without answering. Xue Xiaozuo just happened to approach from the other end to block Xue Xiaoyi. He said with a smile, "Did eldest brother just come back? Let's return to the courtyard. The rain is heavy. Careful not to get drenched." Xue Xiaoyi slapped his hand away and said impatiently, "I know." Xue Xiaoyi took a few steps and heard the students behind him pay their respects in unison and addressed Xue Xiaozuo as teacher. He turned his head back again for another look, only to see that girl earlier looking right back at him with her head inclined to the side. Her gaze showed no fear or trepidation. Even after Xiu Xiaoyi discovered her looking at him, she did not avert her gaze. Instead, she looked at him until Xue Xiaoyi could not help but turn his head around first. The wind and the rain pelted his face. Xue Xiaoyi shivered and hurried away with his arms wrapped around himself. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 89, Thunder. Qing had been out of the capital for a little less than half a month. The Shi clan's money vaults that were opened one after another all turned up empty, but the good thing was that the stores in the various regions could still be managed by Shi Dan. Coupled with the 4 million silvers he had gotten earlier, Shenzhen did not end up totally empty-handed with nothing to show for. The 2 million that had been transported via the northeast supply route in the 4th month had already arrived at Tse province. When the letter was delivered back to Chu capital, it was directly handed over to Shenzhen right from Ding Tao's hands. Shenzhen wiped his sweat. Before he opened it, he waved to Xiao Qiye, who was similarly drenched in sweat. Xiao Qiye took off his clothes and went inside to take a bath. He said from the other side of the screen, "Just read it out to me." Shenzhen read out the letter. Xiao Jiming had been brief and concise in his message, which was that the silver had arrived in Tse province without any issue, and that the army provisions for Liege's armored cavalry this summer and autumn had also arrived at the warehouse. Zhang Qingshan was transferred to Zongbo to take up the post of the Provincial Administration Commissioner of Zongbo. Then was this the batch of army provisions prepared by someone else? Xiao Qiye took a quick bath. As he wiped himself, he said, "It was jointly prepared by the Assistant Administration Commissioner of Chuexi, Yang Cheng, and the subordinated vice prefects along with the various Chuexi vice magistrates. They are all old hands under Zhang Qingshan's command, and they are the fastest when it comes to the past preparation of the military provisions." Shenzhen set down the letter on the desk. He wanted to say that since it had not been through Zhang Qingshan's inspection, then the military provisions should still be properly inspected before distribution. But he thought the better of it when it came to his mind that Xiao Qiye was not managing Liege's military affairs. Xiao Jiming should know better the details of this matter. There was no need for an outsider like him to interfere, so he dropped it and did not bring it up again. Xiao Qiye draped on a dark-colored wide-sleeved robe over his inner garment. He could hold his own against these solemn colors. Even with it hanging loosely over his shoulders, he cut an imposing figure. He drank a cup of tea that had gone cold when he came out and said, "Gu Jin went to the Shui residence to check it up last night. Teacher and Shifu are most likely detained in one of the lofts. Common places should not be able to trap Shifu." Shenzhen touched the brush. "I want to see it for myself.
If someone as vigilant and wary as him were to discover it and transfer teacher and Shifu to another place, then we will be looking for a needle in a haystack. Xiao Qiye removed the crown for Shenzequan. I've already called for men to take turns to keep the periphery of the Shui's residence under surveillance. We have to think of a safer method. There's still one thing I can't figure out. Shenzequan let Xiao Qiye comb his hair for him. That clumsy back and forth was not at all like the second young master Xiao. How exactly did he empty out the Shi clan's money vaults? Qing did not find out anything in Qin province either. Xiao Qiye cast a glance at Shenzequan in the mirror and said, "Can't you still figure it out?" "I already did." Shenzequan looked at him. "We know that the 4 million silvers you got are all subjected to inspections at the various regions' checkpoints as long as they are transported through a trade route, regardless of whether it was by land or water. He must have this concern too, so there's no point in checking the trade routes." Even as Xiao Qiye spoke, his hands did not remain idle. He weaved a little braid the width of a finger for Shenzequan and slowly continued, "The governmental posts Shuizuo holds in successive order are all important positions. A chief supervising secretary audits the accounts in the various regions, and when it's close to the banquet of 100 officials, he no doubt has to have dealings with the transport office. The transport office is responsible for the management of the local taxes paid out to the imperial court. It can't get any more convenient for him to enter and exit the Chu capital if he smuggles the silvers in between." Suddenly enlightened, Shenzequan asked again, "Then where did he hide them?" Although the Shui's residence is larger in scale than the Shi's residence, it's not of a real heritage as the Yao clan. Even if he dug into the ground, he can't hide that much money. That depends on how exactly he wants to use them. Xiao Qiye released his fingers, and Shenzequan's black hair cascaded down like water. It was soft to the touch, and totally lacking in aggressiveness. He pressed down on Shenzequan's shoulders from the back, and both men appeared in the mirror. He said, "His hometown is in Jin City, and down south is the prefecture of He Province. The waterways of He Province are developed and are dominated by the Yan clan, who have business dealings with the Shi clan's boats in the harbors of Juexi. Now that he has kicked off Shi Hongxian, he will have to find someone who can play around with money as well as Shi Hongxian if he wants this money to start moving once more. And this person is none other than the Yan clan of He Province. So, my guess is that he most likely entrusted these silvers to the Yan clan of He Province." Shenzequan had never been to He Province before. All he knew was that the Yan clan of He Province was very capable. They were not like the Shi clan where legitimate sons born of the principal wife ruled the roost. What they counted on was capability, regardless of whether one was the legitimate son born of the principal wife or an illegitimate son born of concubines. During the first year in the reign of Emperor Xiand, the Yan clan made a fortune trading in tea in He Province. They rarely went near Chu capital other than to pay tributes. Shenzequan knew very little of them. Second young master's braids are all so prettily done. Even as Shenzequan was thinking, he did not forget to look askance and poke fun at him, truly an erudite man of many talents. This second young master has braided many a number of them. Xiao Qiye teased him. "Aren't Lang Tao Shuijin's little braids pretty? I was the one who braided them all." Shenzequan said, "I put all my heart and soul into saving up the betrothal gift for you. Yet you regard me in the same way as Lang Tao Shuijin." Xiao Qiye lowered his body and gestured to the mirror, "A horse, hm." There were all sorts of expressions in Xiao Qiye's eyes. Pressing against Shenzequan like this made Shenzequan remember the debauchery of the last time they rode the horse on a rainy night. His smooth neck no longer had those love bites, yet it had already learned to blush when Xiao Qiye whispered into his ears. Shenzequan lifted his chin slightly, completely exposing the arc of that exquisite, jade-like neck. It was like a crescent moon in the dim light, not that sharp and innately smooth and lustrous. He softly asked, "Am I?" Xiao Qiye fell under his spell. He kissed the corner of Shenzequan's eye, then stared at the man in the mirror and said with a smile, "Would I bear to? You're the master of me. I only want to take you riding." Shenzhequan's anxiety that had persisted for days on end dispersed some. When he smiled, it carried with it a hint of seductive allure that even he himself did not notice. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The temperature in Chu capital suddenly rose in the 5th month. They had not even enjoyed the refreshing coolness of spring to their heart's content when that summer heat came assaulting them in the faces. The subordinate officials could not take sedans as they went about their tasks, so each of them lifted their robes and fanned themselves. They were drenched in sweat as they entered and exited the various office compounds, with the blazing sun already causing their lips to peel and their faces to redden. Liang Qiushan had only gotten some free time after receiving a succession of promotions owing to his audits of the Imperial Army's accounts. He was now working under Pan Lin, the Vice Minister of the Ministry of Revenue, handling the task of auditing the various regions' taxes. Pan Lin was now overwhelmed with gratitude towards Xiao Qiye. This was because not 2 days after he returned home from the banquet hosted by Xiao Qiye, Liege Unhung really granted his father, Pan Xiongja, a pardon for his offense. He was not banished to the frontier. Instead, he only received a salary suspension pending observation and was excluded from this year's evaluation. Xiao Qiye had never recommended and vouched for Liang Qiushan for promotion in public, but they were all astute people who knew that Liang Qiushan was someone Xiao Qiye had recommended before the emperor. So even though Xiao Qiye did not give any prior notification, Pan Lin still took good care of Liang Qiushan, sparing him from Wei Huigo's reproach. It's the grand wedding of the Hua and Qi clans next month. We have to familiarize ourselves with the processes that the Ministry of Rites sent over, and the various expenses all have to be clearly calculated so that we can give a flawless report in case the Empress Dowager asks about it after the wedding banquet. Pan Lin drank the green bean soup. He was so hot that his back was thoroughly soaked. Pan Lin was much younger than Liang Qiushan, but he joined the imperial court earlier and his rank was high. So even if Liang Qiushan did not address himself as this humble subordinate before him, he still had to address himself humbly before him. Liang Qiushan was feeling hot too. But they were in the office compound and they had to pay attention to officials' etiquettes, so he could not strip off his robe as he liked. Otherwise, he would be chastised if he were to encounter the imperial censors from the Chief Surveillance Bureau. He dabbed his forehead with a handkerchief and said with a nod, "This humble subordinate shall heed your Excellency's instructions. I will not dare to forget a single amount in this account." Pan Lin gave him a few more instructions on the other matters. He still had to go to the Ministry of Rites to verify some details, so he stepped out to get on the sedan and left. Having owed a debt of gratitude to Shenzhequan and Xiao Qiye for their recognition and appreciation of his worth, Liang Qiushan never dared to be shoddy in his work, and so he promptly set about reconciling the accounts. He sat for only a moment when he heard someone outside barging in. It was midday at present, and there were not many people around. Liang Qiushan hurriedly went down the steps to greet the person. Seeing as this person was an unfamiliar face, he asked, "Brother, who are you looking for?" This person was sweating profusely as he shoved an entire document to Liang Qiushan. He said, "This humble subordinate is an official from the Northeast Supply Route Postal Relay Station. Your Excellency, this is an urgent report dispatched from Juexi's prefecture of Bama province the night before. It comes with the authentication tally from the Provincial Administration Commission of Juexi. This is a matter of extreme urgency. Northeast Supply Route." The moment Liang Qiushan heard this name, he knew it was a major matter which concerned Liege. He accepted the stuff and said in an urgent voice, "Why deliver it to the Ministry of Revenue? All the matters from Liege are considered military reports and should be delivered to the Ministry of War. This is an urgent report dispatched from Bama province." This person said. "It bears the tag of the Ministry of Revenue. Your Excellency, please present it to the minister's desk quickly. The consequence of delaying this express relay report is not something you and I can bear."
Liang Qiushan promptly headed inside with the document under his arm and hurried over to the place, only to turn up empty. However, even though he did not see Wei Huigo, he saw Wei Huigo's attendant. The attendant accepted the parcel but took his time and told Liang Qiushan to go back first, saying that there would be arrangements made for it later. Liang Qiushan intuitively sensed a problem. How could an express relay report be handled so flippantly? They were clearly stalling for time. His heart pounded hard as he retreated out. But instead of returning to the office compound, he turned around, lifted his robe, and ran to where the Jinyi Wei were on duty. It was scorching hot all the way there. Liang Qiushan was panting hard when he arrived. Without even daring to drink a mouthful of water, he hurried into the courtyard and requested to see Shen Zequan. "What's the matter?" Qiao Tianya let him in. "Why did your excellency run all the way here?" "It's an urgent matter." Liang Qiushan could hardly care to explain to Qiao Tianya. When he saw Shen Zequan upon entering, he hurriedly said, "Your excellency, this humble subordinate has something to discuss with you." Shen Zequan got Qiao Tianya to serve the tea. Setting aside his official affairs, he asked with a fixed gaze, "What's wrong?" Liang Qiushan did not dare to sit. He exerted himself to take a breather and said, "This humble subordinate received an express relay report dispatched from Juexi's prefecture of Bama province earlier at the Ministry of Revenue's office compound earlier. It concerns the northeast supply route. This humble subordinate delivered the report to the top but never got to meet His Excellency the Minister. This matter is inextricably connected to Liege. Your Excellency, I fear something has happened to the military provisions sent to Liege last month." Shen Zequan immediately rose and said, "Head over to the Imperial Army's office compound and inform His Lordship of this matter. Take my horse. Say that the Jinyi Wei is on official duty and spur the horse all the way there. The military provisions concerned Liege's war affairs this year. If Wei Huigo was indeed delaying reporting this to the higher-ups, then there must have been a slip-up somewhere that he alone could not shoulder the responsibility for. Although the preparation for the military provisions was handled by the prefecture of Bama province in Juexi, the overall inspection had been carried out by the Ministry of Revenue. ******. This sweltering heat was abnormal. It was only the beginning of the 5th month, yet it felt just like the great heat. The sun was still scorching at midday, and by the afternoon, the weather had turned overcast and windy, looking as if a rainstorm was fast approaching. Wei Huigo had sat on the chair for an entire hour. His back was already soaked through. He felt dizzy, having already finished reading that postal relay report much earlier. For several times, he wanted to speak but he could not bring himself to say a word. Eventually, he steeled himself, abruptly rose to his feet, and said, "Prepare the sedan. We're going into the palace." Xiao Qiye had not even dismounted yet, and the bean-sized raindrops had already come pelting down. Meng stopped on his shoulder. Just as he was about to enter the city, he saw Qiao Tianya galloping towards him. Qiao Tianya had not reached him when Ding Tao also came spurring his horse over from the other end. He tumbled off the horse's back and said in a quivering voice, "Your lordship. Something bad has happened. We received a military report earlier, which says that the Hanshi tribe had trespassed into our territory the day before yesterday and encountered the heir apparent on the eastern mountain range." "Xiao Shi Si, he." Ding Tao's tearful voice rose. "Xiao Shi Sui is severely wounded. We've been defeated." Qiao Tianya abruptly reined in his horse. Sudden thunder rumbled in the sky, blasting apart the darkness cast by the billows of gloomy clouds. Rainwater came pouring down in torrents. Xiao Qiye was still on his horse. For the first time, he had on a dazed expression, as if he did not understand what Ding Tao was saying. In nearly 30 years since Xiao Fangxiu established the Liege armored cavalry, Liege had never suffered a defeat. Even when Xiao Jiming led his troops of light cavalry to pursue and attack the Han-Shi tribe for several hundred li in the past, he had been able to retreat from the desert unharmed. Xiao Qiye had never thought that his eldest brother would be defeated. Never. End chapter.